Right then, good afternoon, guys. It's 1 minute past 2. Welcome to Equalities and Future Generations PDC. Right, guys. Any disclosures of personal prejudicial interest, please? None. Thank you. The minutes, item 5. Oh, sorry, any apologies for absence? Sorry, guys. Any apologies for absence?
I have no apologies, Chair.
Welcome, Leslie. Minutes, item 5. To resolve the minutes. Hang on, guys, sorry. Right. Page 1. And page 2. Any matters arising?
Yes, Chair, the co-production strategy is mentioned, but I've not been able to find a copy of that anywhere. I'm sorry, I've been through previous agenda packs and I've not been able to find it, so I'm sorry, but could I ask Democratic Services to please send me a copy of that? Thank you very much. And I'm happy to approve the minutes. I've read them, they're accurate. Thanks.
Can I just reply to you, Mary? I did speak to Councillor Hopkins last week about that item. I was going to catch up with him again, but obviously I haven't, sorry. But I'll make sure that does get out to you, so thanks for that, Kate. But David is going to come along and discuss it as well, okay? Thanks, guys.
Hi, Mandy. Apologies for lateness. I was having trouble getting in. The usual technical problems that most of us experience. Could I just ask if I take it we're on the minutes still, and I note it was resolved that you would be talking to Councillor Hopkins about the Sustainable Development Policy, and I wonder if you could just tell me on the committee, please, where we've got to with that. Thank you.
Hiya, Pete. I did catch up with Councillor Hopkins. I need to have a catch up. He is going to attend. To be honest, I did only speak to him about co-production, but we've got diary dates now set in where I will be meeting with Councillor Hopkins and the relevant cabinet members going forward.
Okay, because obviously the SD policy is fundamental to everything this council does.
Yes.
But I was reading it again this morning, and it's so comprehensive and builds, of course, on the Wellbeing Act, which is central to the work of this committee. So thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Mandy, can I comment? Can I just ask, can you see my hand up? Because it's been up before.
Yes,
both
I can. Oh, sorry, Leslie. Hang on. Let me just get rid of my background.
I just wanted to check to make sure that it's working properly. That's all. Anyway,
yes, I can see your hand up. Thank you.
Right. Can I raise the Black Lives Matter working group? Ask where we are on that, whether the group is going to carry on, and if not, how we're going to keep track of that area. I mean, personally, I want the working group to carry on because I'm very keen to carry on being involved in that work, but I'd like at least to know where we are with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. From what my belief is, the working group is going to continue. And Councillor Gibbard obviously is going to take the lead, but the working group is still going to continue. I'll get an update for you, Leslie, okay? Black Lives Matter.
Okay, thanks, Maggie.
Thanks, Leslie. Any other matters arising? No. I just find my minutes. Sorry, guys, I'm in a right pickle here today. Right. So we have. Hang on, have I got the minutes here? Right, okay. Right then, guys. Item 3, that was. Item 4. HR and organisational development update is hiya, Jonathan. Sorry, maybe I should have asked for introductions.
Well, Councillor.
Hiya, sorry.
Yes, I'm Jonathan Wells from Legal Services.
Thank you.
Today.
Mandy, I think it's Adrian Chard will be leading on this item.
Yeah, Adrian, yeah.
And then Liz has come along as well to talk about Helping Hands.
Yeah.
Okay, are you ready for me, Chair?
Yes, please, Adrian.
Okay. So yeah, I provided a report as requested to present to you today on the support that we've given the workforce as a result of COVID-19. I assume you all have a copy of that report, and I'm happy to talk through that in as much detail as you want. So basically, the report sort of summarises that since the outbreak of COVID-19 back in, when was it, March of this year, there've been a sort of series of measures and actions that have taken place to support the workforce, starting off with the identification of a number of supporting principles that we have followed right throughout this pandemic to ensure that we sort of comply with our duty of care to employees at this particularly difficult time, to encourage flexibility in the workforce and also flexibility from the council employers perspective in managing the workforce, and also to identify opportunities for staff to be redeployed, so that we are able to maintain essential services throughout this time. So the report sort of breaks down what we've done in respect of communication and engagement with employees, specifically from a HR and OD perspective. As you can imagine, that as the pandemic has impacted on us and the impact has changed on us, we have produced quite a comprehensive frequently asked questions document to answer some of the questions that have arisen originally and subsequently to support our staff. And that is in addition to a whole range of communications that's available via StaffNet and also via local management arrangements. And that's reviewed on a regular basis as and when we receive advice and guidance from the Joint Council for Wales and the National Joint Council across the UK, but also, if you like, in response to the local requirements in sort of managing our staff and also managing the operations that we are required to undertake, let's face it, across quite a wide range of activities. We also have developed a more comprehensive, I guess, engagement with trade unions. Prior to COVID-19, we had a monthly trade union meeting, as well as the regular JCC meetings to talk about HR and OD issues. Those meetings, as a result of COVID, were increased to weekly and then subsequently fortnightly to discuss all issues related to COVID and all issues related to employer relations issues. Those meetings have been sort of well received and productive, and supports our partnership working approach, and also includes a number of health and safety issues that we discuss and consult with trade unions on. Also, in part of that, we have also established a series of meetings with trade unions representatives to consult and agree wherever necessary the risk assessments that are undertaken for all areas that have either sort of ceased services and then commenced services, or those sort of had to sort of build up their services as a result of COVID-19, and that also includes those staff that are having to work from home as a result of not being able to work at sort of the normal base locations. We have also received credit on a Welsh national level for the activities that we've done in supporting BAME workers. We've introduced a specific risk assessment in recognition of, the additional impact that's been identified from COVID-19. So that has been introduced and is in operation across the council. Financially, we have provided support to staff, particularly those who are casual workers, and particularly those who are in receipt of regular overtime, to in line with that principle of no detriment, so that if they were in potential financial difficulties as a result of COVID-19 and not able to work, we established a method of ensuring that there's continuity of payment for them at the start of the process, start of COVID-19, and as COVID-19 has developed, that process has been sort of streamlined to ensure that support is much more targeted. Section 2.5. This is specifically, also I should also mention, in terms of the support for principle of no detriment, we have implemented the £500 payment to social care workers to ensure that they receive the recognition, if you like, for the additional work that they've had to undertake in supporting COVID. And of course that it was a Welsh national initiative. 2.5, Agile remote working. We have just over 1,500 employees, excluding staff, school staff, who are now working from home. They were mainly based in the Civic Centre or Guildhall, but of course there are other locations. As mentioned before, we have a risk assessment process in place to support their safe working, and we've developed guidance for employees and for managers in how to support employees, and for employees to support themselves, if you like, in terms of working from home, and that also includes support for employees in helping them purchase the correct equipment for them to work from home. And we are currently developing an agile working policy, which of course we will consult with the trade unions on, to support the potential for agile working, home working going forward. And that is part of our wider policy development activities that we are undertaking to deliver in consultation with trade unions across a whole range of HR policies. That's quite a substantial ask, because we are talking about potentially over 700 policies, and we are working with trade unions to streamline those, to make them user friendly, shall we say, and of course in line with any sort of legislative and best practice arrangements. And that includes a development of a domestic abuse policy to support employees who are in those domestic abuse situations. That policy has been agreed with trade unions, and we are taking that to JCC in December for approval at that level. So that's a sort of summary of what's in the report. Obviously, there are sort of occupational health and safety activities as well. Liz is here as well to I guess to answer any questions from a health and safety and maybe an occupational health perspective, but happy to field any questions.
Thank you, Adrian. Peter Jones first, please.
Excuse me. Thank you, Chair. Oh, interesting. We all do it. We're all I hope enjoying it. I certainly am. But there's a cost. There's a cost in terms of heating. There's a cost in terms of increased electricity consumption. I've certainly noticed it in terms of my home energy bill. Not just myself, but my wife. We're both working from home, and it's adding to home heating costs. It's possible, of course, that by comparison, the council, in terms of heating and energy costs in the Guildhall, Civic Centre and wherever, I don't know, but maybe experiencing a reduction in energy costs. So I'm simply pointing out that working from home is all very well and clearly necessary during the current pandemic, but there is a cost to those of us who are working from home. I wonder if the council has given any thought to this.
Yeah, I mean that's something that's shall we say in the thoughts of the corporate management team. You know, to some extent, as I say, in terms of the IT equipment, there is that additional support to staff to enable them to purchase the right equipment. In terms of the heating costs and so on, there is, of course, you know, the potential additional saving for the workforce in not having to travel to work each day. So we need to take that into consideration. At the moment, this is something that is being considered at a Welsh level, and the view from CMT is that we would wait to see what would be coming out of the Welsh national discussions. And I know the Joint Council for Wales, which includes trade union membership, is considering that at this moment. So at the moment we are sort of holding our fire on that, if you like, pending those discussions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Councillor Leslie Walton next, please.
Thanks, Chair. You mentioned looking at supporting employees' domestic abuse. Are you also including in that economic abuse as well? The kind of abuse where one partner stops the other person being able to access money, jobs, going out, etc., etc. Is that part of the domestic abuse policy that you're looking at?
To be honest, Councillor, I'm not sure. I'll need to check on that. It's not something that if you like, obviously springs out at me as what's in the policy, but I can come back to you on that point, if that's okay.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, interestingly, that's just quite weird. I got an email from my own bank on this, and one of the campaigns this bank is trying to do is looking at that particular issue. I've got a sheet on it if you'd like me to send it to you.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Yes, please.
Yeah, I'll circulate it to the group. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Cyril, Councillor Anderson, please.
Yeah, thanks, ma'am. Good afternoon, Adrian. It's going to 2.5 Agile remote working. I'm wondering, I'm sure there's been a consultation, but have you got any figures on how many of our staff would like to stay and retain, you know, working from home?
There was an initial survey that was carried out right at the start of the pandemic when staff were required to work from home. I haven't got the precise percentage figures, but the majority of staff that were required to work from home were happy to continue to work from home, either on a full-time basis or more of a part-time basis, if you like, to retain a base in a council building, but having that flexibility to work from home whenever that was appropriate. I think for me personally, it would be good to revisit that, because at that time, you know, we were in early days, if you like, of working from home. And again, I'm speaking personally here, that was at the time when we, I guess, didn't sort of fully appreciate the duration of this pandemic, and of course now, after working from home for what, 8, 9, 10 months, you know, people's viewpoints might well change, and you know, the if you like, the initial opportunity to work from home might well have diminished as a result of having to do that continually and having that remoteness, if you like, from their colleagues. So that was the initial view at that time, that the majority of staff wanted to continue with that arrangement.
Thanks, Adrian.
Okay.
Councillor Mary Sherwood, please.
Thank you. I'm having some problems with my headphones, Adrian, so I didn't hear everything you said in response to Peter. But there is tax relief for people who are working from home. I can't remember how much it is. And I believe that HMRC have changed the claim process on that so that you can claim just for the whole year in one whack, even if you haven't actually been working at home for the whole year. So is this something that staff are getting advised about?
Yes, so staff are directed to the HMRC if they wanted to claim that, and of course we'd support wherever was appropriate on that, but that's where staff are directed to at the moment.
So staff have to do that themselves through HMRC. They don't do it through you or through payroll. They do it directly with HMRC.
They have to do that directly with HMRC.
Right. Okay. Thanks. And it was the very end of August, sort of August bank holiday weekend, that I ran into a council officer who lives in my ward. Lots of them live in my ward actually, and she was kind of she was complaining about working on a tiny laptop, and I was surprised that she hadn't been given a proper computer screen, and this is the sort of thing that I know the working from home sort of the workstation safety risk assessments and things like that are supposed to pick up. So do we know how many people are still waiting for equipment? I see from your report that there's been advice given to people about how to acquire equipment, but what happens in that situation? Do we provide the equipment to make people's workstations safer, or do they have to get it themselves? Do they have an equipment allowance, or what can they do? And the FAQs, I should apologise, I can't get into StaffNet to look at the FAQ link that you sent us.
Okay.
So it might be that everything I'm asking you is already answered there, but I haven't been able to see it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. In terms of the officer that spoke to you, that person should be speaking to their line manager if they haven't got the right, if they feel they haven't got the right equipment, and I can just use the example of my team, where my team work quite agilely previously anyway, in having to go to various meetings in different buildings, and a number of those staff, including myself, had a tablet. Now, working from home continually, that hasn't been appropriate, so I put a request in on behalf of my team for the 6 or 7 people who had tablets. Could we have a laptop with a bigger screen? And IT were able to facilitate that. So I can't see that there would be any reason why that employee shouldn't be able to access that, and through that risk assessment should be able to identify that anyway.
Well, I guess my concern as a committee member is that you're the head of HR, so you know what staff are entitled to, and you know how to make sure that your staff get it. And actually, not every manager has that level of knowledge or confidence. So, one thing that I do know about our organisation is that actually a lot of what you get as an employee depends on the knowledge and confidence of your line manager and how up to date they are, with the updates that they've been circulated and the meetings that they've been going to. And we know that everybody is working really, really hard and doesn't always have time to keep on top of everything. And that some requests like, I really need a bigger screen, are not necessarily going to be things that a line manager would pick up. So I think, as a member of this committee, I'm concerned to make sure that that process is as streamlined as it can be, and is there anything that we can do to make it, to put less friction between the worker and that piece of equipment and make it, more fluid?
Right. Okay. First of all, just I'm not a head of. I'm the HR manager.
Sorry, Adrian.
No, I haven't got that privileged position to be a head of. No, that's fine. That's fine. It's that's another issue. But yeah. So from that point of view, I haven't got responsibility for health and safety, and I haven't got responsibility for ICT. But I can certainly feed back those comments to ensure that I feel like there's a reminder to managers and to staff that they should be carrying out those risk assessments, and also that anything that results from that, certainly in terms of IT equipment, is followed up. So I'm happy to take that action away.
Yeah, I mean, what I can well envisage is people not getting around to doing the risk assessments and managers not getting around to asking for the risk assessments, and it all seeming rather unimportant until someone gets a really bad, neck injury from not having the right equipment. So, I think a reminder might be good. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Leslie, do you want to come back in, Councillor Walton? You're on mute, Leslie. Thank you. Right, so it's okay. Thanks, Leslie. Just to close it up, I've got a few things just to ask you, Adrian. With regard to the risk assessments, obviously, Councillor Sherwood's just touched on it. It is a physical risk assessment, or is it a tick box exercise?
Well, I don't know if Liz wants to come in on this particular point. As I say, it's a health and safety issue. I have to say personally, it's quite a sort of a rigorous process. If it's a tick box, if people feel it's a tick box exercise, I haven't had that feedback personally. To some extent, again, it could be more streamlined to make it more user friendly, and that's my personal view. But I think as a council, and as any most local authorities that I'm aware of, it is quite a rigorous process. So hopefully it's not a tick box exercise. Okay,
thank you for that. I would just like to note, where we are with the BAME recognition, which is really positive for our organisation. And as a local authority, very, very positive, because obviously these members of staff, COVID's brought different things to different groups of people. So I deeply appreciate the work that we are doing for that community within our workforce. And what else was I going to ask you? Sorry, one more question. No, it's okay. Mary's touched on it. So thank you very much. I appreciate for the work you've put in. Obviously, when we talk about reviews now on the Agile working policy, obviously I know we do a lot with the trade unions. But as a committee, I think we need to be considered as well for input, and just to take us really along with you if possible.
Yeah, sure. As I say, that policy is being developed at the moment. If I can just sort of talk informally at this stage, that we haven't yet entered into consultation with trade unions. The trade unions have asked for a sort of, if you like, delay on this post-COVID. I think the council's view would be, or CMT's view is, that we should press on and get a policy in place, to as I say, in recognition of where we could potentially be in the future. But yeah, happy to consult with you on that policy. Certainly, yeah.
Thank you, Adrian. We'll take two more speakers. Councillor Joe Hale, please. Hiya, Joe.
Is he on mute?
Mute. Joe?
Yeah, I was on mute.
There we are. Hiya, Joe, you right?
Yeah, I've missed a lot of this, but I've just picked up on the Agile working and working from home. So at the moment, do we have a specific working from home policy, or are you pushing that into an Agile working policy?
Yeah, at the moment we have, in response to to COVID, we've developed Agile working guidance that's gone out to staff and managers. And as was just mentioned, I'm not sure how much you missed of that. We are developing an Agile working policy, which in response to the chair, we will sort of share with you and consult with you as we work through that policy. So that Agile working policy would cover work from home, yes.
Yeah, but no specific policy on working from home.
No.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you, Joe. Councillor Peter Jones, the last contribution.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And it might be appropriate that it's the last one.
Hello,
when I
Bruce.
read the paper, sorry, when I read the paper for this meeting, I have to say, with the greatest respect, it seemed to me more like a scrutiny paper than a policy development paper. And I continue to be a little unclear quite what the role of this committee is in relation to the process that we've just been, or the report that we've just received. It's an excellent report, not criticising the report or the officer in relation to that. But I think it draws attention to the fact that there's a very fuzzy boundary between what we call policy development and what we call scrutiny. I just wonder, as an observation, it seems to me that we need to be careful to ensure that the business that this committee undertakes, it's actually delivering. It's not simply receiving a report. Well, this is my observation. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, can I just come in there to say that we were given assurances, not only by the leader, but by Phil Roberts as well, that we were going to get a home working policy. And that was said at a scrutiny meeting. That was said at a scrutiny committee meeting. So I'm a little bit, because I know there's a difference between agile working and a home working policy, because we've got several of those in public sector. So you're quite right, Peter. It does seem we're going down the road of maybe challenging and not developing, which I'm not against. If people want to put themselves up for a challenge, that's fine. But we should be developing a home working policy.
Right, thank you. It's all noted. Working policy.
Mandy, can I be cheeky here and come back in on that? Because I think part of the point is I can see what Peter means, I can see what Joe Hale means. I think the issue here is you need to look at the whole thing, which probably scrutiny will also look at as a whole, whereas we're then going to hone in on what our committee should be doing. And our committee certainly should be looking at agile working policy, and it should be coming back to this committee to look at. And part of that agile working policy will surely be a policy that includes working from home. So it ought to be part of that policy. And that is where I think our work for this particular policy development committee, that's where our work will kick in. Thank you.
Mary, do you want the last word? And it's definitely the last word. Come on, Councillor Sherwood, and then we're gonna close it down to the next agenda.
Over the years, what I've asked for is a clearer kind of framework about how scrutiny and PDCs work together, and I have had conversations with Richard Rowlands about this, and I think he was in agreement. And I thought somebody was going to be writing a paper that was like a kind of guidance document around this, but I don't think it's happened yet. But the suggestion really is that if scrutiny come up with recommendations for policy development, that they then come through to PDC for that work to be done. So I haven't been part of that scrutiny that Joe has mentioned and that Peter's mentioned. So if a scrutiny recommendation, which was accepted by Cabinet, was that a home working policy should be produced, then that does seem to be a good piece of work for this committee. And like Leslie says, that would constitute the home working element of our overall agile working policy. So maybe we need to have a look at that scrutiny recommendation in context and consider whether that's a piece of work for us to do, Mandy. That's all.
And I think, and this is definitely the last comment, Adrian.
Okay.
I feel it encompasses both policies as well. You know, home working to me is under a different umbrella than agile working, but I totally agree with what's been said by Councillor Sherwood and Councillor Walton and Joe and Peter, that you know, probably we will be drafting and contributing and developing a policy that encompasses all home working and agile working policies. Thank you, Adrian.
Okay.
More than welcome.
Chair, if you want to catch up and I can talk that through with you, that I'm happy to do that.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Right. Sorry guys, I'm knocking my speaker on and off because I got workers here. My house is halfway being rendered. I'm in a bit of a mess here. Hang on now. Don't know where I am in my notes either. Right then. So now we move on to item number 5. Liz. I think everybody should know Liz. Liz, would you like to introduce yourself, and would you like to deliver your presentation, please?
Okay, I haven't got an actual presentation, Mandy, but I can talk you through if that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. So I'm Liz Thomas-Evans, so I manage the stress management and counselling service, the in-house one for our employees. And Mandy asked me to just come along today to tell you a little bit about what we've been doing since COVID, really. Obviously, for me, at the beginning of COVID, we were very worried about our staff, especially our frontline workers. Hopefully, you've all heard of the Helping Hand service, which are employees who volunteer to help other employees going through difficult times. And what we did was we changed that service a little bit. We retrained up our Helping Hands volunteers to actually deliver a psychological first aid service then for our frontline workers. So since March, since the very beginning of COVID, it took us 3 weeks to get everybody up, trained, ready. We've been delivering that service, and we've managed, at the moment, we've been supporting over 830 of our frontline workers and private care homes by delivering psychological first aid calls, 15-minute wellbeing calls every week to each individual. So before starting this service, I was wondering what we needed to actually provide for our employees. And from experience, knowing how when people are very busy, very stressed, also professional people like managers sometimes find it very hard to ask for support. So I didn't think it was appropriate just to give out a phone number for our employees to call. So the way that we actually run that service is that all managers that are frontline working send in a list of all of their employees into me, and then we systematically pair them up with a psychological first aider who then calls them every week to check in on them, to give them some tools and techniques to keep them resilient and to increase their well-being through obviously this very difficult time. What we've done a lot of evaluation on the service, and what we found was that at the beginning, as we would think, our frontline workers' resilience and well-being scores were quite low. But after 4 weeks of having weekly phone calls, that well-being and resilience score increased and has continued to do so throughout the service that we've provided. So we're continuing to provide that now for over 800 of our frontline workers and private care homes. The reason we stepped in with the private care homes was that they were struggling and kind of contacting the council to say that they were struggling and didn't have anything in place. So obviously we put ourselves forward to go over and above and to provide some support for their staff as well. The other thing that we provided as well, obviously thinking about training for staff, we provided online training for our own staff. So I developed a psychological first aid course that our employees can access through the learning pool, a stress management course, preventing burnout, and also an email stress course. Obviously working from home is very different to being in the office, and that kind of work-life balance of picking up emails early, in the morning, very late at night, and trying to get that balance. So we developed all of those online courses, but what I also did was also put them into PowerPoint presentations so I could send them out to every manager that was linked into the psychological first aid service then, to be able to print out for their staff if they didn't have access then to computers. So the service has been very well received by both managers and employees. Employees have been very grateful for it, and have been very grateful that it was just given to them rather than them having to ask for it. Not all of the first aid, not all of the frontline workers needed the service or wanted to accept it, and that was fine, but they've still got that person that is their link. So if in the future, when we have another wave or as we are now, they need to have that support, obviously they can access it very quickly. Within a name coming in that needs support, within 24 hours that person has somebody contacting them, so it's that quick with the psychological first aid. The counselling side then, you know, we are having an increase obviously in employees coming through with COVID related anxiety and stress. So we're seeing an increase in that. But at the moment, our waiting time for counselling is probably about 6 weeks. We do like it to be about 4 weeks, but we are having an increase. We're getting about 20 referrals per week through now for counselling. So that's the kind of thing that we've put together. So the psychological first aid services for managers and employees. So managers are also called in weekly as well. So I don't know whether anybody's got any questions.
We've got Councillor Hale first, please.
Yeah, hi Liz.
Hi.
Just congratulations really, because I know how hard the wellbeing team and occupational health have been working in the health service, and that's with countless members of staff being redeployed from frontline posts into occupational health. Just on funding, just wondering if heard a lot about psychology there. Just wondering if you do, or if we do, shouldn't say you, should I? If we employ, do we employ any clinical psychologists? I know we've got a couple in the health board, and yes. I know COVID they're getting extra funding from Welsh Government because a lot of the impact, as you're no doubt aware, has been mental and emotional on staff members. So just wondering whether you've had the same luck, and just to point you in the direction of Welsh Government, really, to say that there's money available.
Okay, great, thanks, Joe. Yeah, we don't have psychologists. We use psychotherapists, counsellors within our team. So we have, we only have 2 members of staff actually employed in the council within my service. It's just myself and Andy at the moment. We have 6 other external counsellors, psychotherapists that we can use if we need to bring those in. But to be honest, without our 25 to 30 volunteers, this psychological first aid service wouldn't have been able to come about. So I'm very, very grateful to our volunteers. But yeah, we don't use clinical psychologists, it's counsellors, psychotherapists that we use, Joe.
Yeah, cheers. Say it's such a good service. I would recommend that if this is going to be an ongoing problem, you know, that clinical psychologists and that high-end psychiatric therapy support, maybe that could be a way forward. But you're doing an excellent job.
Thank you.
Mandy, I haven't got a hand on this. Can I say something?
Can we? Yes, you come in now, and then Leslie Walton then after, please.
I come in. I don't mind, as long as you know that I haven't got a hand on my screen. Do you
okay. Go on then.
Oh, Leslie, is it you or me? Me?
It's go on, Linda. You go first.
Okay. I would like to say, did you say you have some leaflet or something that could go out? Because I think I need psychological first aid. I'm doing things the wrong way, working from home. It's really hard, I find. I've had a lot of, well, because of the cycle path, we won't go into that, but I've sort of replied to about 4 dozen emails personally, and I've been working late at night and I have not been sleeping till 4 in the morning. So I think my work practice is all wrong. So I mean, psychological first aid, I think that it's just that I need some guidance on how to, so have you got a sheet that you could send to the counsellors as well as the staff?
Yeah, and if I could just use this opportunity to let you all know that you're all able to come in and get some support from our service as well. It's extremely confidential. The spreadsheet is not linked to any other service. I'm the only one that has that. You know, and if you don't want your name to be put on anything, your name doesn't go on anything. It can be as confidential as you need it to be, okay? So please, if you need, you know, just email me and, you know, we can get support in for you, no problem at all. The psychological first aid course that I wrote and the burnout and the stress management, I can send all those through for you as Word documents if you want, like a presentation. I can definitely do that. And if there's anything else that you can think of that might be useful. I did speak to Mandy as well about maybe doing like an online sort of mental health first aid course for you if you think that would be quite useful, just for you to find out a little bit about what we're doing as well, and maybe get some tools and techniques from that as well if you want to, for yourself and others. If you feel that's useful, let Mandy know and I can set that up for you.
Can I just come in before I introduce Leslie? You know, I think my take on this is obviously, you know, COVID-19 have brought massive pressures to every single person, you know, within the business, within the council. And, you know, we all deal with it in different ways, but we're not supermen and we're not superwomen. We are far from that. And, you know, I myself was out 12 o'clock Sunday evening on a call supporting a very, very vulnerable family, in fact, but we all do it. And I'm glad that Liz have come along, because I think we need to be identifying that this service is for everyone and it's for members as well, because I think a few of us know, but a lot of us don't know. And I think under the pressures that we're all under, and not only that, I think it's our duty to learn about, as Jo said, this excellent service that Liz and her team are providing. Because, you know, Jo have congratulated. I think we all should be congratulating you on for what you have delivered and how you have supported our, you know, our staff. But yes, it is there for us as well. And, you know, maybe we do need to promote that it is open to members as well. And I welcome anything, Liz, that you can bring to the table and, you know, to make it, to raise the awareness then that it's for every single person, and members inclusive as well. So I thank you for that. Thank you, Linda. Right now, Leslie, sorry, Councillor Walton.
Yeah, really just to echo what you said and Jo said, I think what you're doing is fantastic. Also, the fact that you're proactive is definitely a step in the right direction, because as you say, so many people, if they're in that situation, for whatever reason, they don't want to ask for help. So if you make sure they've got the help, they can then say yes, no, 3 bags full. So, you know, it works perfectly, or I shouldn't say perfectly, obviously people still might not take you up on it, but at least they've then got that link to you so they can take up on it if they need to. And as for the information you've suggested, yes, please, to all of what you've said, but also contact details, not just for us to make use of the service as well as staff, but also details about who can volunteer and how they can put themselves forward, because I'm guessing that you're probably always looking for volunteers, and I'm sure that the volunteers you've already got will appreciate any more coming along and spreading the load for you. So yes, please, to all the information. Thanks.
Thank you, Leslie. Can I just say, sorry, Liz, probably I'm taking you thunder here. Back a few years ago now, Councillor Kirshner and myself, we joined and we done a little bit of work, Liz, didn't we? And then obviously with my illness, I was taken out and whatever. But I learnt quite a bit from the few sessions I attended. So the training is very intense. It's very, very appropriate, I know. And I got to say, the team are more than friendly. Everybody's welcome. And what I would say is, this is an excellent service. We need to retain the service, and maybe, you know, if anybody is aware of any funding like Jo's brought to our attention here today, you know, maybe we need to be raising the awareness for Liz and her team as well to support the excellent service that she's doing. And one thing I would like to ask you, Liz, with regard to risk assessments, maybe, you know, it's not your bag, but when we talk about safe methods of work, and, you know, especially when working from home, because it's a new culture. And, you know, as I've hinted to you before, I'm on here 24/7 because I do other activities and I'm involved in other things like we all are. And discipline is a big word, because we're not disciplined. And, you know, and then there's so many different things that could take you away from the concentration. So when you talk about discipline, you know, with my other hat on, they say to me, oh, you shouldn't be more than 2 hours on that screen, man. You get up, you walk around, make yourself a cup of tea, get away from the block. But you don't, because when you're in mid-conversation and it's intense and it's a priority conversation, you just leave it ride. So when we talk about home working and well-being, you know, and that's why I asked you to come along today, Liz, because current times, you know, well-being is prime because of the different pressures that we're working under. but we've still got to facilitate our roles, and we've still got to, you know, support our residents and our staff, and, you know, we just got to keep on going. So once again, thank you, and I welcome the work you do and the support that you're giving our staff, who are very much frontline out there. Thank you, Liz.
Thanks, Mandy.
Any more contributions, guys? So don't all jump now and put your name down to see Liz tomorrow, right?
Yeah, you can, no problem at all. Just let me know.
Thanks, Liz.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Take care, bye.
Thank you. Right, hang on, so many bits of paper here, guys. I'm not organised today. That's getting up at 4 in the morning, but I'm not making excuses, honest. Right. And then we got co-production. I was hoping that Councillor Hopkins was going to pop in. I don't know whether Joanne?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you a very brief
update, please.
Yeah, I can give you a brief update from an officer perspective. So we had the corporate strategic framework for co-production last year. So Sarah Corkin or Lackenby produced that. And so both Sarah and Rian had worked with leadership team to talk about their plans for what they call a ladder of engagement. So basically, they were asking different heads of services, you know, what plans for engagement they had over the next couple of years, and talked about co-production being a tool, but just one tool for engagement in the engagement box, really. But this was prior to COVID. Subsequently, I think Sarah was drawn very much into support around sort of digital infrastructure and inclusion. And subsequently now it's just been picked up, but it's been handed to Lee Wenham, who will be looking at that now, because unfortunately the work that Sarah and Rian did was sort of February, March time. So it is probably a little bit out of date, really. So that's all I've got to say from an officer's perspective, but Lee Wenham is now the lead for that.
So Lee Wenham, right, thanks for that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Right then, so we'll keep that on the agenda. We'll defer it to December. I'll speak to Lee and see where we are, and I'll request that Councillor Hopkins attends. Okay. Mary, would you like to come in?
Thanks. Just to say, it might have moved to Councillor Hopkins, but the last I heard, it was still Louise. It's still Louise Gibbons, you know, Equality, yeah. And I know that there is work going on to set up a strategic equalities board. Yeah. So now that's something that with the poverty reduction PDC, we've got a work plan item to make sure that we know what that strategic equality board is working on, so that we do feed in appropriately but don't duplicate. And it might be that board is going to be better placed than this committee to actually drive forward the co-production work. So I would just flag that up, that I think we need to keep in touch with the emerging strategic equalities board, and see what they as a PDC, what they need us as a PDC to do, and what they just want to do more as a kind of central equalities oversight thing. So yeah, but I think it is still Louise. Thanks.
Thank you. Before I bring Leslie and Peter in, just one thing to say, and you've reminded me, even though I've written it down, Mary. The name of this PDC is going to change because of the formation of the Equalities of Future Generations board. We are going to be renamed as Recovery and Transformation PDC. Okay, Leslie, do you want to come in?
Yeah, just to say, please, can we not only agenda item on December, but can we have a written report back at that meeting? Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Peter Jones, please.
Thank you, Mandy. Just an observation, really, in relation to production. To go in one of those on trying to develop the concept of co-production, which at the time I'm never sure I quite understood. but it wasn't very successful. And I don't know whether they've made more progress since. This is some years ago now, but it headed nowhere. And what prompted me to make this observation, I don't know how many members have had a chance to read the Transformation Strategy and Programme Framework 2022 to 2026. But there's a reference in there to co-production. And I'll read it, there's only one sentence, and it says, quote, co-production is successful, all being delivered as required. And so I'd be interested, clearly we may not be able to do that today, but I've been interested to find out quite what went wrong, what's necessary to put it right, and what could be the role of this committee in helping in that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Any more contributions, guys? No. And then we're on to item 7, the work plan 2020-2021. As I said, I've diarised, well, I'm going to confirm meeting dates with, well, it'll be Louise Gibbard now as well. I'll add Louise in. Councillor Gibbard, Councillor Hopkins, and Councillor Lewis, Andrew Lewis, to get this work plan and the priorities set up. And then obviously for December, we've got the co-production. I will ask for a written report to be delivered. And we've got a talk on the natural environment. And then going forward, we haven't got a meeting then until 26th of January. So by that time, we should have 3 months work plan set up to take us into March or April. Peter, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I wish my hand would stay up. It keeps going down and coming up again. Very irritating. So yes, I do. It's gone off again. There we are. The natural environment discussion, obviously I shall be very interested in that. And in fact, your meeting, or this committee, will be meeting the day after my natural environment panel, which is meeting on the 14th, where we shall be looking for reports in relation to delivery on the natural resource management and biodiversity well-being objective and various other matters relating to the natural environment. Will you be, I assume you will be inviting someone, and if so, who, to come along and to address us on natural environment, so that it just won't be listening to me boring everybody. Presumably Deb Hill or somebody like her, will she be invited?
Yeah. The name that I was given as a reference was Deb Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll request that Deb attends on the 15th of December.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. 15th of December, Deb. Yeah. Okay, we all clear? Any other contributions? Meeting closed 14:58. Then, guys, thank you for your attendance. And we'll get the reports out earlier to you next time, okay? Thank you.